Factorization. Now in today's topic, we'll be looking at the 4 different types of basic skills that we'll need for factorization. First skill, factorization by identifying common factors. This skill can be used for expressions with any number of terms. For example, factorize 12ab squared plus 6ab. In this case, we can see that 12ab squared plus 6ab has a common factor of 6 for the numbers. So we can factorize out the common factor 6. For the letters, we have A and A is common, so we can also factorize out A. And for the letters B square, this is B times B, and this one is B over here. You notice that letter B is common, so we will have letter B. Then 12 divided by 6, that gives me 2. AB squared divided by AB, I'm left with a letter B. Plus, now this part over here, most of the students will take it as, 6ab divided by 6ab, there's no more terms, but that's not true. 6 divided by 6, a divided by a, b divided by b is actually the number 1. Alright, so we can write this expression as 6ab times 2b plus 1. So this will be using a skill on factorization by common factors. The next skill that we can use will be group factorization by grouping. This type of questions usually involves expressions with 4 terms. For example, questions of this type, where you can group terms with common factors together. We'll explain more of this type of questions later on in the video. The next skill is to use factorization by trial and error. This usually involves quadratic expressions with 3 terms. For example, expression of this type where there is an x squared, x term, and a number. The last skill will be doing factorization using special products. This usually involves quadratic expressions with 2 terms, and it must be of the form a squared minus b squared, where we can use the special product that a squared minus b squared equals to a plus b, a minus b. Alright, now without further ado, let's do the practices. First one, let's look at the expression over here. This is a quadratic, because there's x squared, expression with 3 terms. For this kind of question, we shall use the trial and error method. Now, many teachers have been taught many different methods. The textbook uses the window method. Okay, some teachers will use the trial and error method. And you may also know how to use the calculator for this kind of question, right? But before we begin, we identify that this is actually 3x squared. The number here is 3, then plus 11, positive 11x, and the constant term is negative 4. So if I were to use the window method, I'll need to think of something to get 3, something multiplied by something to get 3x squared, and that will probably be 3x times 3x. 3x times x, sorry. And then I want to try to get the number negative 4 over here. Okay, then in this case, what are the answers that we can get so that I can get negative 4? What times what can give me negative 4? So maybe we can have 4 times 1. Right? But at the same time, I must also try to aim to get the value positive 11x. So in this case, I'll need to take 3x times 4 to give me 12x, and 1 times x to give me positive x. Since I want a positive 11x, I'll bring the positive sign to the larger number and negative sign to a smaller number, such that this 2 terms over here adds up to 11x, right? And if this is the case, this sign will be a positive, because this one is positive 12, this will be minus 1. But it may not be always the case where we know how to identify the answers straight away. So in this case, we can use our calculator using the polynomial mode. Right, you can try mode 33 or mode 522 for the Casio calculators. Different calculator have different buttons to press. For ours, we identify that A equals to the number 3, B equals to the number 11, C equals to the number -4. Keying it into our calculator, we get the answer x1 equals to 1/3, and the second one x2 will be equals to -4. So if I want to work out this kind of question, x1 is equals to 1/3, it means I might have my first answer, the numerator is 1, 3 will be with the x value. Since this is a positive number, so we will write minus sign. Right, the second answer, this is x2 is equals to -4, so 4 is on its own, this will be x with 4, but since this is a negative number, we will change it to a plus sign. Alright, so this is how we can get the answer using a calculator. We can also double check our answers again. This one will be 3x times x to give me 3x squared. I want the number 4 over here, the constant term. Usually I'll put in the sign the last to check the sign. And I'm going to put 4 down here to be with x. So that I cross, I'll get 12x. And I 1 times 4 is 4. So this one I cross over will get x. Since I want a positive 11x, I'll put the positive sign with the larger number, negative sign with the smaller number, so that they add up to give me positive 11x. Then last check, negative times positive 4 will give you -4. And this one will give you the answer over here. Alright, what happens about question B? Instead of you doing all the 3 methods, I'll just do one of the different methods. For my calculator, it shows me that A is 6, right? B is -13, C is -5. So A is 6, B is -13, C is -5. My calculator shows me the answer that x1 is equals to 5/2. Positive, x2 is equals to -1/3, right? So what does this tells me? Now you notice this one over here is y square and y, right? So we'll need y in our expressions. Okay, and first answer, I have 5 with 2, so 5/2, so 2y with 5. This is positive, so we'll write a minus sign over here. And next one, this is 1 with 3, so it'll be 1 with 3y, and this is negative, so we'll write a positive over here. I'll just do one working to check, right? So I will want to get a 6y squared, 2y times 3y to give me 6y. 2 is with the number 5. I want -5 over here, so I put a 5 times 1 to give me 5. Cross 3y times 5 will be 15y. 2y times 1 will be 2y. I need to get a -13y, so I'll put the negative sign with the larger number, the plus sign for the smaller number. This one -5 and plus 2. Check, -5 times +1 gives you -5. So this is correct. We have our 2 brackets over here, and this one will be the answer. Have you gotten the skill? Let's move on to the next question. In this question over here, you notice that this is a question with 2 terms, an expression with 2 terms, and not only that, it is a quadratic expression with 2 terms because we have a power 2, something square with something square, and this is a minus sign. So for this type of question, we should identify that this is using the special product a squared minus b squared can be factorized into how many brackets? We'll have 2 brackets. How many sign? 1 plus 1 minus, and that will be a plus b, a minus b. Alright, so how do we know that? First one, 4m squared. What is the square root of 4? What times what gives me 4? This is actually 2 squared, and this one is of course m squared. Right? What about the number 9n squared? 9 is actually the number 3 squared, and n is n squared. So this is actually 2m whole thing square and 3n whole thing square. So immediately we can factorize this into the answer that has two brackets and two different signs, 1 plus 1 minus. 2m times 2m to give you 4m squared, and 3n times 3n to give you 9m squared. Alright, so we are using the special product here. A squared minus b squared equals to a plus b, a minus b. What about question D? So we'll try to think and look at A. What is 72 itself? 72 is not a perfect square. 72u square is not a perfect square. But what about 2? 2v square is 2 is also not a perfect square. So when we start to handle this kind of questions, we'll need to always do the first thing, check for common factor. Now we observe that 72u squared minus 2v squared, the number 72 itself and 2 has a common factor of 2. So taking out the common factor 2, 72 divided by 2, that will give you 36u squared minus v squared. Then now we can think, the number 36, what times what gives you 36? Is there something square? Well, this is 6 squared u squared, and this one is just v squared. Alright, so in this case, now this portion changes to the pattern a squared minus b squared. But writing down the answers, we should not abandon the number 2, the factor 2. We must remember, we make sure we write it down. So the first step, 2 bracket 36 u squared minus v squared. Please write down this step in your working. There will be marks for the working itself. Alright, then after that, then we keep the 2, do not throw away the 2. And now we are going to apply the special product. A squared minus b squared equals to a plus b, a minus b. Right, where this one will be 36 is 36u squared, 6u times 6u. And v squared will be v times v. So the answer will be 2 bracket 6u plus v, 6u minus v. Have you gotten the skill? Let's move on to the next question. Last skill for the day. Now looking at this kind of questions over here, we have expressions with 4 terms, and you can't help but notice that different groups of terms have different factors. So we'll do factorization by grouping. Now, one of the common mistakes that students like to do, they like to randomly add brackets that looks like that. Okay, if there's a negative sign here, terms with negative sign here, when you add up such brackets itself, the sign over here may be affected. So try not to do add brackets of this type. Alright, so usually for me, what I'll do, I'll just do a grouping where I'll just group 8bx with negative 6by together, and that's one group. Negative 20ax, remember to include the sign in your working, plus 15ay, like that. Okay, so in this case, let's take a look. 8bx minus 6by, the common factor is 2 and letter b. So with that, 8 divided by 2 is 4, bx divided by 2, a divided by b will be x, minus 6by divided by 2b, we'll get 3y. So now if I notice that I have 4x minus 3y, I must make sure the other factors, the other group of factors also can result in something with 4x minus 3y. So having this here, negative 20ax plus 15ay, the common factor is the number 5. ax and ay, that will be letter a. If I'll factorize this out, I'll get negative 4. Negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4x. And this will be plus 15 divided by 5, 3y. Right? You notice that the sign over here are different. This is negative, while this is all positive, and this is negative. So in this case, what we can do, we can factorize out a negative 5a. Then this sign will change to positive, and this sign will become minus. Now we have 4x minus 3y and 4x minus 3y to be exactly the same. Writing down the answers, students who prefer shortcuts, you can write down the answers directly. The one that's common, 4x minus 3y is common, so I'll just write 4x minus 3y, and the other bracket we have 2b minus 5a. If this is a positive number, please put plus. All right, so this will be 2b minus 5a. Answer. Right, for students who prefer to do it mentally without writing the side working, you can add in your working on your own. 2b bracket 4x minus 3y, and this one is negative 5a. Alright, if the question is a positive 5a, please make sure you put the sign positive as well. But in this case, it's negative. Please remember to put the negative sign. Without the sign, it means all are multiplied together. Then the question, then your working will be incorrect. Alright, so this one will be our working. Last question, we have 54p squared with negative 6p. Okay, and then we can probably group 9ps with negative s, because s itself only has one factor s, right? So have to be grouped this way. So let's look at the common factors. 54 and 6 should be common factor 6. So divide by 6. P square, p times p and p, we have a common factor p. So dividing this, I'll get 9p minus 6p divided by 6p. 6 divided by 6, this one is not nothing, it's not empty. It's actually the number 1. Alright, so now I have 9p minus 1. I must ensure that my second group of factors can also give me 9p minus 1. And down here, 9ps minus s, the only common factor is s. Right, so I'll left with 9p, and then this one will be minus s divided by s is the number 1. You notice this whole portion over here is the same. Okay, so we can write down our answers. Be careful, this one is positive x. Please remember to write your sign. Right, so for those who are able to see the answer directly through the working, you notice that the common factor is 9p minus 1. Then the other set of factors will be 6p plus s. For those of you who like to write working, instead of doing this type, the blue color type of working, you can write down your answers. Be careful, do not write your answer this way, because this one you need to include the sign inside your working. If not, it means everything is multiplied and you will have an incorrect working and marks will not be given for your answer. So have you gotten the skill? Now with that, we come to the end of this part of today's lesson. We'll see you for the next time.